So David, thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy day because you're playing in Basel today.
Yeah.
But it's been an amazing opportunity to get to talk to you.
Pleasure.
And why is it amazing? Obviously, on the one hand, you are a very successful businessman and you are also a super successful rock star. And the big question is, oh yeah, yes. And the big question is, how do you bring those two together?
How do I bring them together? Well, I need to go back quite a way. I learnt piano as a child. My mother was a very good pianist. And when I was a teenager, I had a garage band. And then one day, I just stopped because I had to study. My father wanted me to go to university. I wanted to go to university and as well, and work in family business, which I did. And so I basically stopped when I was a teenager. And then it was in 1999, October or something like that. I was walking past a music store in Sydney. I grew up in Sydney. I was based in Sydney. I live in New York now. But and I walked past a guitar shop in the city, and out the corner of my eye, this guitar sort of just, I saw it in the corner of my eye, and I thought, okay. Hadn't played for a long, long time. I think I hadn't picked up a guitar probably since 1970. I was 16 then. And I went in and bought the guitar, took it home, taught myself to play it. I remembered a bit from when I did it, and I really enjoyed it. And it was just before the turn of the century, and I had a birthday party. My birthday is also New Year's Eve, so I had a birthday party at the turn of the century, and I was just learning to play the guitar. And I asked the band that I joined, "Can I play a few songs with you?" And they said, "Can you play?" I said, "Well, not really, but give me your list of songs." So I learnt 6 songs. Played with the cover band that night, and I said, "This is really good, I'm going to do this." And here we are 22 years later. So it's been a very long journey with lots of ups and downs. But you know, it's like anything else. If you apply your skill set to it, your resources, of your abilities, and practice a lot, and you meet a lot of people along the way. And if you have a bit of luck, also you meet the right people, and keep at it, and that's really the story.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Also, when you look into the history of Dead Daisies, and I've been following it pretty much from day one, or almost day one, there's a lot of people talking about the number of people in the band, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's a different setup than a classical band that was grown up, or isn't it?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we didn't start out as 20-year-olds putting $1,000 together and buying our equipment and then making this our life. Everybody's already got another career. I just had a different other career. And the guys I started out with were very successful, and whilst we wanted to put a lot of time into it, I couldn't put the entire 365 24/7 into it, and neither could they. So the way that it worked is I used to allocate a block of time from it, from my business, and for the business I run, that I started already 20 odd years ago, as a private investment business. So my time was my own, and I was able to allocate time away from it. Also, as technology has improved since then, we all know we all work from everywhere, right? So, right. I mean, I worked today, I worked yesterday, I'll work tomorrow, I'll play a gig tonight. You know, so the way that the band formed was that, well, if somebody wasn't available, I'll have to get somebody else. There's also been the odd occasions where I have not been able to play, and I've replaced myself. So it's more of a collective, and we've got quite an alumni.
Yes.
And again, through circumstance and luck, I managed to meet some very interesting people that introduced me to some really good players, and that's how I met Richard Fortas, and that's how Dizzy Reed, and then later Doug and Glenn Hughes. And so it's been a journey, and some of the fans, it's difficult for some of the fans to cope with changes of band members, but others, it also gives a bit of creativity and freshness to the band as well. But ideally, if you could have the same people the whole time, it's probably the way of doing it, but not the only way of doing it. So we adapt to the circumstances.
Well, I personally basically adjusted myself by just liking that you always bring something new, knowing, of course, how the business works and how it's very, very difficult to do it otherwise, right?
We have a sound, I think, and it's changed a little bit over time, and it's a mixture of, Australian rock is not American, not British, it's Australian, and I grew up with that, and we've always had an American guitarist, so I think it's a mixture of Australian rock, UK, with Glenn, who lives in the US now, but it's that mixture that keeps it fresh and gives it its own sound. I mean, it is new classic rock. That's what it is.
Right. Well, it is amazing, right? And I think the really interesting bit about it, if you ask me, is how you bring innovation into it, right? It may sound grand, but I think that's what you do. And also, maybe that is something that you learned in business, where you also have to adjust to the new. How's that idea of innovation kind of reflecting in your mind, or is it just something that subconsciously happens?
Well, I think you've got to innovate all the time because the circumstances are changing all the time, and the environment around you is changing all the time. So, I mean, like today, we're playing Glenn Hughes. He's got COVID. So the show goes on, and 2 days ago we managed to find another singer and a bass player. We need two guys to replace Glenn because he plays bass and sings. We did it, and might be a bit rough tonight. You'll see.
We'll see.
But we did it. So it's a matter of being flexible, have a flexible mindset, think laterally. Like in business, you got to be flexible. You got to think laterally. You've still got to have a goal that you're going towards, and then you make the best of the circumstances and the best of the macro of the environment, macro, micro that surrounds you all the time. It is a venture capital business. You got to put it. What's a record company is just a venture capitalist. So there would be a lot of similarities with venture.
I agree, and that is again the fascinating part, because venture is also where I'm coming from,
yes,
right?
I know. Yeah.
And I think when you look at today, just take the concert tonight. If you're not having the singer/bass player, most bands would just have called it off, right? But you didn't, right? You went out and you basically used that old way, and you're here, right?
Yeah, for sure. Why not? I mean, the show goes on. It's nothing's dependent. Nobody's irreplaceable. Okay, so the show goes on.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's my mindset anyway. As fans that have bought tickets, we don't want to disappoint them. They may be disappointed because Glenn's not there, but then, okay, we'll give them their money back if they're disappointed. But no one's asked yet for it, so we'll see how we go. But look, it would be, COVID's going around and we just got to adapt to it. It was very difficult. We made the first record with Glenn in December 2019. And it really set us back, not being able to go out and play in 2020 until the middle of 21. So, but everybody's subject to that. Everybody's suffering from it. Many bands have had to modify or cancel shows. So, yeah.
So amazing how you basically merge the world of venture and rock, right? And I think it's kind of a bit of what you're doing, right? I would like to come back to you as the not just rock star, but the businessman and rock star, because I know you're still doing a lot of work there.
Yes.
And also it may be surprising to many bands out there how that works, right? Maybe you want to share a little bit about that?
Well, look, I have a day job. I love my day job. I don't want to discontinue it. But over the years, I figured out how to keep it together, and especially with the technology today, you can do many things. I'm also a pilot.
Right.
And so you can do many things. It's just got to set your mind to it, allocate your time, try and organise yourself as best you can. And we're only here once. All we have is time. You should fill it in with things that you like to do, you want to do, and that you want to go on. It's a journey. So, but there is similarities. I mean, venture and the music business. I've been involved in many different businesses. By far, the hardest is from a business sense, it's very high risk and very low margin, and that's, as you know, that's not a very good combination.
Right.
But it's a very special thing to be involved in, and it's everybody in the industry is, they love it, and that's why they're in it. But it is a very difficult business. It's, if you're in the real estate business or if you're in the investment business, you can apply the principles that you know, and you've got a reasonable chance of if it's real estate, picking a good site; if it's a venture company, picking a good founder, picking a good idea; if it's an ongoing business, you can look at the balance sheet, you can look at the P&L, you can you can get some feel for the prospects of the business. But there's nothing like that in music. You can you can take the biggest songs ever made, and you can't, after the fact, you can say, oh, that's a hit. Now I know why it's a hit. But try and do it before. It's very, very difficult. And so you go for it. You have an idea, you've got an idea, you write a song. We write collectively in the Dead Daisies. Everybody brings ideas, and then I like to sit in a room and I like to work collaboratively, whether it's business or music or whatever I do. So so there are similarities, but knowing what is going to sell, if you like, when it comes to art, music, film, art, it's art, and you never know what tweaks somebody's interest. So that is the hard part.
Right. Well, you kindly offered that you're also a pilot, and
yes.
Obviously when one looks at your watch, which is a very famous Breitling watch from
yes.
Switzerland, right?
Yeah.
I think you're a bit more than just a pilot.
Yeah.
You want to talk about your love for aviation?
I love flying. I wanted to fly since I was a little kid, and I started, again, like music, a bit later in my life, but I did competition aerobatics for many years. I fly historic aircraft. I have a collection I created a museum out of. I'm probably one of the highest time Spitfire pilots in the world.
Wow.
I fly fighter jets, business jets. Yeah, and I've got an airline transport pilot license. I could get a job, except I'm too old. I'm over retirement age. But if the music doesn't work and the business doesn't work, I probably could get a job flying planes. So I love flying. It's the antithesis of music. In music, when you're playing, it's in the moment. Flying, you're traveling at 8, 9, 10 miles a minute. Your brain has to be where you're going to be in the next minute. So you're not in the moment. And that's what I love about the two different things. They're completely different, because one's in the moment and the other is in the future. You want to know where you're going to be very soon. Otherwise, the aircraft's flying you instead of you flying the aircraft. But,
right. So
yeah.
how is it to fly a Spitfire?
It's well, the first time was very difficult because it's a one-seater, and I hadn't been in it before. But flying a Spitfire is more than flying an aircraft. You're flying a legend. You know, you're flying the aircraft that won the Battle of Britain, turned the tide of World War II, and there's something very, very special about it. The shape of it is, it's a beautiful machine. If my wife would let me, I'd hang it in my living room. It wouldn't fit, but it's a work of art. It's a piece of art. And magnificent machine. Very nicely balanced, and got a lot of horsepower.
Yes.
In aviation, you can never have too much horsepower. It's got a lot of horsepower. But it's the first time I flew it. I was very nervous. I'd flown one before. But I made it back. I'm still here, unlike many of my friends, but that's how it goes in aviation.
Right. So how many planes, if I may ask, do you own right now?
Well, I created a museum in Australia with 14 aircraft. I don't own any of them. They now belong to the Royal Australian Air Force, of which I'm a reserve member, because to fly those aircraft, because the Air Force owns them, you've got to be in the Air Force. So they inducted me as a reservist, the oldest one they've ever taken. The deal was I didn't have to get a haircut. So I'm actually a flight lieutenant in the Royal Australian Air Force in the reserves. Yeah, and I have a business jet that I fly everywhere I go.
You're bringing him on tour?
I take it on tour, yeah. I don't fly and do a gig the same day or the next day. The headspace is very different. When I'm going to do a flight, I even put on a uniform, I go out with the crew, I refuel the plane, I do everything. You've got to get your mind on what you're doing. It's a very unforgiving environment if you get it wrong. It's not like hitting a bad chord.
Yes.
So you've got to fly. It's a very serious business, and your mindset has to be very on it. So I usually prepare the night before, and then I've got my mind in aviation, not doing anything else. That's also, it's good for me because it changes my, it gives me a break from either work or from music or from whatever.
Right. So you said it's not like hitting a bad chord.
Not
now
like
obviously
it's
a lot easier to hit a bad chord on a bad guitar. What is your favorite guitars?
Well, I play Gibson guitars, but I've actually got I've got a bad back, so I had some very lightweight copies made of the Gibson SG and of the Flying V.
Right.
They weigh 1.8 kilos.
Wow.
So when you pick it up, it's like a toy. But it sounds really good, but it's very easy on my back. I can't really... actually, I damaged my back from all the aerobatics, the high G forces from the aerobatics. It compressed my spine, and I've had a few operations. So, my guitar's Gibson. I just don't, the Fender just doesn't seem to work for me, and I've got other types of guitars, but I'm not a big collector. I don't collect guitars.
Right. But in any case, you are an aviator. You're a super successful businessman and a rock star. So I think
I'm not
most
a rock
people,
star. I'm a better pilot and a better businessman. I play guitar in a band.
Right. Well, which is a bit more than most people do, right?
Yeah.
So people are obviously astounded by the dynamic. And I'm just trying to understand a bit what drives you there, what got you there, and what makes you unique.
Well, I always wanted to play music, and I always wanted to be a pilot. And fortunately, I was able to be able to do that. I mean, when I finished university, my family ran a public company, and I worked in that for 23 years, and that put a lot of constraints on me. It was a large public company, and in a public company you have to act in a certain way. You've got different types of responsibilities, and I was able to leave that business and establish for my family a private investment business, which is a partnership with my father and my brothers. My father and my two brothers stayed working in the public company. I left and established an private investment group for my family. And that then gave me the freedom to do the other things. I particularly play music, and because my time was my own, I had to account for my results to my family, and the business came before anything else. Like in 2008, during the financial crisis, I stopped playing music. Like every other person in the investment business, it was a very difficult period. And I stopped between 2008 and beginning of 2011. I didn't do any music because the business required my full attention. So, my family comes first, then the business, and then my other activities. So, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, since you're talking about the investment side, that is something that is very interesting to myself as well.
Yeah.
Because I started in venture capital, but now I have a private setup with two friends.
Yeah.
So 3 family offices created Excelixis Capital. That's the name of the company.
Yeah.
And we are really focusing on sustainability.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainability per se; it's more circular economy.
Yeah.
And we are kind of coupling that with all those new fascinating technologies that are coming to the market right now. Is this something you're also looking at, sustainability and beyond, in particular circular economy?
The investment house that we manage just for my family, we don't manage outside money, although I have seeded some fund managers. Our asset allocation is basically 60% to global equities, which is my main focus. I wouldn't call it large cap, mid cap, not much small cap. All different industries, no specific direction other than I don't do commodities. I don't want to be in a business where I want to be a price maker, not a price taker.
Right.
Then we have 20% in real estate, mostly in listed real estate, and 20% in technology and technology related, which is partly private, partly with partners, partly with some fund managers where we collaborate in ideas. So the business I do, I mostly do established businesses. My brothers do one does real estate and the other does the technology. So, but I have had some experience at it, and the reason why I focus on global equities, listed global equities, I only ever worked in it when I was in business. Our family business was public since 1960, so I only ever worked in a public company. So I have a natural affinity to public companies, and I did some venture early when I started the investment house, and venture and technology, and I was spectacularly unsuccessful at it. So I said, I'm going to stick to what I know. But I do watch the space closely. It's an important space. Sustainability is very important for the environment and for everything else. And if it's important for the environment, it's going to be something you're going to be able to make money at and successfully invest in. So it is something that I follow, but I don't directly don't directly invest in it.
Right. No, it's. I think the point I'm trying to get to is whether this is a European theme or whether it's a global theme, because the impact definitely is global, right?
Yeah.
And when we founded it out of the 3 family offices, we were just like, okay, nobody of the classical investors is going into it because there's no history and nothing there yet. But we have a feeling that we're very close to those companies. And the idea behind it is that when you look to nature, there is no waste. So waste was created by people. Sustainability is trying to create less waste, but circular economy is really trying to create everything without any waste. And that sounds crazy, but we've known how to do that historically. So we believe that eventually people will go back to that.
Yeah, well, I think we have to, because we can't keep piling up plastic out there, can we? So, but I tell you what, I think that it is a big issue and it needs to be tackled, but I think that human ingenuity will resolve these things over time. You know, there'll be ups and downs. That you've got existing interests that are very much want to hang on to existing interests. It's a natural human condition, and you have new interests, and you know, it's like it's a bit of a tug of war. But over time, a combination of movement in people's mindset, government policy, and human interaction and intervention and ingenuity. Those three things will eventually come together, and we'll have a sustainable future. You know, I don't know. It may not seem at some points in time, but the difficult part will be getting everybody to go down the same path at the same time, because it's, you know, it's seeing what's going on in the world today. It's very good that Germany doesn't burn fossil fuels, but if it's coming from Russia, somebody's burning it next door. You know, it's one way or the other we'll figure that out.
Right. Well, so we hope, but we just said that 10% of the family assets are going there, just to help it a little bit, and we hope it will push it the right way. Right.
If everybody did that, we'd probably get
there. Good thing, right?
Probably get there. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's how we started it. We are very happy that some friends are also supporting us.
Oh, good.
So it's a good thing.
Good.
So Dead Daisies, the new record is scheduled for September, I believe I've seen.
Yes.
So what's the news? What can you tell us about all
Well,
of that?
we've released 3 songs now, I think, from 2 songs. The third one's about to be released. I think it's our best work yet. I think this is the second album we've done with Glenn, and the combination of him and Doug, myself, together, I think is really the second album. I think we got to understand each other better than the first album we did with Glenn, which also an album I love. And I think that there's a very nice combination of tracks on it that you'll find. Some are very heavy in Glenn style, and some are more rock in the style of Doug and myself. But the blend between the 3 of us, I think, is very good. And Glenn's got an unbelievable voice, and he writes great lyrics. He's an incredibly talented individual.
He is, for sure.
Incredibly talented individual.
And I hope there will be nice vinyls coming out as well.
Yeah, we will do vinyl for sure.
That's good. I mean, all the old records have been issued on vinyl as well, right? And you kindly signed them before me. So that's good.
They're on vinyl, but they're digitally recorded, so
of course.
It's still nice to have.
Yes.
Still nice to have.
Well, I've been collecting vinyls since I was 12, right?
Really?
So it's a pretty large collection by now.
What's the first album you bought?
The first album I bought, well, it was 10 albums I bought together.
10 together?
Yeah. It was my first money I ever put in there. So there was Typo Negative, Life of Agony, Danzig, Deep Purple, The Cult, and what was the last one? Oh, of course, Nevermind by
right.
You know, the good old band that created this new thing that turned over a little bit of the rock world that we all grew up with. So obviously, when Kurt passed away, that didn't pass away the entire idea. That was that. So it was quite the journey. But interestingly, I grew up on rock without knowing it, because my parents kind of were old hippies, living in a castle, but still, you know, and
doesn't matter. It's a state of mind.
It is,
right?
Yes. And so I grew up with Deep Purple and Pink Floyd and so forth. So I never really meandered too far away from the classical rock way.
Oh, good.
Which links me so closely to Dead Daisies, because it's kind of dead plus all the new ideas.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we can only create what we grew up with as well. So it's new classic rock. That's how I would describe it to people.
Right. And you also like Barbados T-shirts.
Yeah, you got one too.
Yes,
I got one of those too. He makes good T-shirts, but he's not in it anymore.
He is not?
No, he's not part of it. He sold it to private equity a while ago, and he actually is out of it. He has a new label now. I think it's called, I forget what it's called. He has a new label now.
I need to check out.
Yeah.
I need to check out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when we had the last meeting, I think when you did the concert in Zurich, you were also wearing actually the same shirt that I had at the time. So that was
I think
funny.
they make great T-shirts.
They do. Also, when you look at the price and everything, there's a bit of a question mark. And when I then bring in my circularity, that's kind of things that are stretching it a little bit.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to make those amends.
And the good thing is they don't make that many of them. They keep making new ones, so that they remain quite rare.
Indeed. Well, so tonight is going to be an amazing show. We can't wait to hear you.
Great.
I'm sure it's going to be just blowing our mind.
I hope so.
And for the next records, we just keep waiting.
Okay.
It's going to be amazing.
Thank
you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
And I hope you will help us to share everything
For sure.
through the company.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a million.
Okay.